Look at me carefully and for heaven's sake, wipe that smug, successful employee smile off your face, because in a minute it's going to peel away along with your skin, exposing a truth that will make you want to howl. You wake up every morning to the sound of an alarm. Put on a suit that costs more than your self-esteem, and drive to the office convincing yourself that you're building a career, that you're a vital part of the team, and that your boss values your contribution. What a delightful suicidal naivety, worthy of a sheep proud that the shepherd knows its name. You think your salary is an evaluation of your skills. You think those numbers dropping into your account twice a month are the equivalent of your talent, your mind, your time. You are so profoundly wrong, it isn't even funny. It's tragic. Your salary is not a reward. Your salary is a bribe. It is a carefully calculated, cynical, mathematically precise bribe to make you forget your dreams and spend your only life building someone else's. Have you ever wondered why you're paid exactly that amount? No more, no less. You think it's the market. No, it's a slave management algorithm. You are paid just enough so you don't starve, so you can pay rent for your concrete box, put gas in your finance car, and buy enough food to have the strength to crawl back into the office tomorrow morning. But, and this is the most critical element of the trap, you are paid not enough to ever be able to say, to hell with it all, and walk away. This is called the golden middle of misery. If they paid you less, you'd revolt and go looking for a better fate. If they paid you more, you'd accumulate capital and find freedom, ceasing to be a dependent cog. Therefore, the system keeps you in a state of perfect equilibrium. You are too full to rebel, but too poor to be free. You are a serf with an iPhone, and the chains on your hands aren't made of iron. They are made of the monthly transactions you're hooked to like a baby to a bottle. And here is where the real withdrawal begins, because a salary is the most powerful drug ever invented by humanity, compared to which heroin is child's play. You get hooked on the needle of stability. The 1st and the 15th of the month are your hits. You wait for them, you plan your life around them, and your mood depends on a bank SMS notification. As soon as the money arrives, you feel a brief rush of euphoria. You run to the mall to buy more useless junk, rewarding yourself for your suffering. But within a week, the drug wears off. The anxiety begins. You look at the calendar and count the days until the next dose. You fear losing your job, not because you love it, but because you are an addict who's afraid of being left without a dealer. And your boss isn't a leader; he's your drug dealer. Keeping you on a short leash, dosing out your means of survival, just enough to keep you functional but dependent. But brace yourselves, because now I'm going to flip your reality upside down using that Santa Barbara effect that will make you feel cold sweat on your back. You think you're a victim of the corporation, that evil capitalists are exploiting you. Oh, if only it were that simple. The truth is much scarier. You aren't a victim. You are an accomplice. You yourself, voluntarily, in your right mind and with a clear memory, signed that contract. You sold your ambitions, your potential, your risks, and your possible victories for a guarantee of safety that doesn't exist. You look at entrepreneurs, at people living on the edge, and think they're crazy, but in reality, you are the crazy one. You're sitting in a burning house convincing yourself that the heat from the fire is the comfort of central heating. You think a stable job is an asset. In 2026, a single source of income is not an asset. It's a lethal risk zone. It's Russian roulette with 5 bullets in the chamber, and every day you pull the trigger hoping it won't fire today. Do you feel that knot in your stomach on Sunday evenings? That nausea before the work week starts? That's not just not wanting to work. That is your soul screaming in agony, trying to reach your salary-fogged brain. That is your intuition howling like a siren, warning you that you're wasting your life making someone else rich while you slowly but surely turn into a spent resource. Are you proud of your years of service? I look at your resume and I don't see loyalty. I see fear. I see a person sat in the same cage for 10 years because they were afraid no one would feed them outside. You've become institutionalized like a prisoner afraid to go free because they've forgotten how to hunt. And the scariest part of this story is that the cage door was never locked. You're sitting there not because you're being held, but because you've forgotten how to walk. Are you ready to find out how much your hour is actually worth once you strip away all the fluff of corporate bonuses and social packages? Are you ready to see a figure that proves you value yourself less than your CEO's parking spot? Let's take a sledgehammer and shatter the main altar you pray to every Sunday, your belief in stability, because it is this very belief that turns you from a predator into prey. You look at your parents, you listen to their advice soaked in 20th century mothballs, and they tell you, hold on to your spot, son. Reliability is everything. And you nod, you agree, you cling to your office chair with blue-knuckled fingers, not realizing that the rules of the game changed before you were even born. I saw the 20th century. I lived in it, and yes, it worked there. You sold your loyalty to the corporation, and the corporation took responsibility for your old age. It was a fair deal, a soul in exchange for safety. But today, in 2026, that contract has been torn up, burned, and, the ashes scattered to the wind. But they forgot to tell you. You continue to give your loyalty, but in return, you don't get guarantees. You only get a temporary stay of execution. You think you're standing on solid ground? Look down. You're standing on a gallows trapdoor. The rope is already greased, and the lever is in the hands of a faceless board of directors who don't even know your name. You call having one job stability? In the world of professional investors, that is called a lack of diversification, and it's considered a sign of clinical idiocy. If I put all my billions into one stock, they'd lock me in an asylum, yet you put the only asset you have, your life, into one employer and call it prudence. That isn't prudence. It's Russian roulette with 5 bullets, not one. Any recession, any inflation spike, any new AI algorithm that learns to do your job faster and for free, and you're a corpse. You aren't just taking a risk, you're in a lethal kill zone, but your brain, drugged by the salary narcotic, paints an illusion of a bunker where a house of cards actually stands. You think years of service is your armor? You say with pride, I've been with the company for 10 years, but I look at you and I see a tragedy. I see a person who doesn't have 10 years of experience. I see a person who repeated 1 year of experience 10 times, and you didn't grow. You stagnated. You grew moss while the world around you learned to run. Your loyalty isn't an asset. It's your vulnerability, because the longer you stay in one place, the more terrified you are to go out into the real world where the predators evolved while you were sleeping in stasis. And here's the twist, the Santa Barbara effect that should make your skin crawl. You think you're part of a corporate family, that the boss invites you to the barbecue because he likes you. What a touching, deadly mistake. To the system, you are not a human. So you have no eyes, no dreams, no children to feed. To the system, you are a line in an Excel spreadsheet under the expenses column. And the task of any competent manager is to cut expenses. Right now, while you're sipping your morning coffee and thinking about weekend plans, somewhere in a quiet office sits a person or an algorithm calculating how much the business's margins will grow if your line is simply deleted. And as soon as the equation shows a plus, you will be deleted. Without emotion, without malice, just business. You'll be thrown onto the street with a cardboard box in your hand, standing in the rain, wondering how it happened since you were such a good boy. But the market doesn't pay you for being good. The market pays you for being irreplaceable. And you did everything you could to become a replaceable cog. You are like a turkey before Thanksgiving. Imagine a turkey. Every day the farmer comes and feeds it. From the turkey's perspective, the farmer is a god, the guarantor of stability and prosperity. Every day its confidence in tomorrow grows. Statistics are on its side. Life is beautiful. But then comes the Wednesday before the holiday, and something happens that is a black swan for the turkey, but a planned event for the farmer. Your stability is the stability of the turkey. The longer you're fed, the closer the knife is. You've relaxed, you've lost your edge, you stop sharpening your claws, you think a crisis is something they show on TV. A crisis is when you go to the ATM and it says insufficient funds, and you realize your career was just a long hallucination. Are you ready to see the real price of that hallucination? Are you ready to take a calculator and figure out exactly how much you valued your one and only life when you sold it wholesale to a middleman? Because the numbers we're about to get will be scarier than any horror movie, and they will prove that you value yourself less than a patch of asphalt under your boss's car. Pull out your phones, open your calculator, and prepare for the most brutal, bloodiest open-heart surgery on your ego you've ever experienced, because right now we are going to turn your pride in a good salary into a handful of ash. You call your salary income. I call it the gross revenue of a loss-making enterprise that you mistakenly call your life. You look at the figure in your contract, say $5,000 or $10,000, it doesn't matter, and you think that's your price. But that is a lie. They feed you so you won't rebel. Let's subtract taxes from that pretty number, because the state is your first pimp, taking its cut before you even touch the money. But that's just a scratch. The real hemorrhage starts where you refuse to see the truth. Subtract transportation costs, gas, the depreciation of the car you only bought to drive to this job. Subtract the cost of business lunches you eat, not because you want to, but because you have no time to cook. Subtract the cost of the suits and shirts you hate but are forced to wear to fit the dress code of your corporate hive. Subtract the money you spend on Friday night alcohol and therapists to drown out the stress you got in that hive. You are paying for the right to work. You are subsidizing your employer out of your own pocket. And if you calculate honestly, you'll see that your salary is nothing but a pathetic scrap. But wait, you think we're done? We've only just begun, and now I'm going to use the move that will make your world flip, the Santa Barbara effect, where you realize you didn't just sell yourself cheap. You sold yourself into slavery for food. Do you divide the remainder of that money by 160? Working hours a month? What delightful childish naivety. You think you work from 9 to 6. You're lying to yourself. Your workday starts the moment the alarm rings, and you curse the world as you get out of bed. That time belongs to the job. The time you spend in traffic jams, breathing exhaust fumes and losing nerve cells belongs to the job. The time in the evening when you're too exhausted to play with your kids or read a book and just lie in front of the TV to recover for tomorrow, that time also belongs to the job. You aren't selling 8 hours. You are selling 12, 14 hours a day. You are selling your best hours, your energy, your focus, leaving only the scraps of your attention for yourself and your family. Now hit the equals button on your calculator. Look at that figure. That is the real value of your hour. That is the price for which you sell the only thing you have. The irreplaceable, unique time of your life that flows away like sand through your fingers. Do you see that figure? It is laughable. It is insignificant. And here is the mercy blow to finish off your illusions. That hour of your life is worth less than an hour of parking for your CEO's car in the city center. You are worth less than a piece of asphalt. Your boss values the space for his iron box higher than your time, your dreams, your potential, and your health. You are a consumable resource that costs the company less than paper clips when calculated on the scale of eternity. You think this is economics? No, this is cannibalism. You are eating yourself, selling pieces of your flesh at the wholesale price of trash, and yet you manage to be proud that you were hired. Do you feel the nausea rising inside? Good, that means you're still alive. The dead don't feel nausea, they only feel the cold of the gravestone they ordered themselves on credit. You thought you were exchanging labor for money? No, you are exchanging life for survival. You are a biological machine processing its life resource into shareholder profit, receiving just enough fuel in return so you don't stall before the end of the shift. And the scariest discovery is that you do this not because you have no choice. You do it because it's easier. It's easier to be a cheap slave than an expensive master. It's easier to sell yourself for pennies and complain about fate than to take responsibility for your own price. You look at that figure on the calculator screen and you realize that isn't your salary. That is your own evaluation of yourself. That is how much you valued yourself when you agreed to those terms. But what if I told you that this nightmare isn't a sentence, but a starting point? What if this humiliating equation can be rewritten? But to do it, you'll have to commit a betrayal. You'll have to betray the good employee you've been trying to be all these years. You'll have to become a spy behind enemy lines. Are you ready to learn how to use this system that is trying to eat you to build your own ark? How to turn your pathetic salary not into a means of survival, but into donor blood for your future greatness? Because there is a way out, but it's not where you're looking for a promotion. It's in a total change of the rules of the game. Are you ready to stop being a victim of arithmetic and become the one holding in the chalk at the board? I see your fingers trembling over the send button in an email window where you've already started typing a resignation letter filled with righteous anger and resentment for years wasted. But stop right now, take your hands off the keyboard and take a deep breath. Because if you quit tomorrow, you won't be acting like a hero. You'll be acting like a clinical idiot jumping out of a plane without a parachute, hoping gravity will make an exception for him. You think I'm calling you to a mutiny on the ship? You think freedom is a hysterical escape into nowhere? What delightful suicidal stupidity worthy of a teenager, not a strategist. I'm not suggesting you burn bridges while you're standing on the enemy shore without weapons or provisions. I'm suggesting something much more cynical, cold, and effective. I'm suggesting you perform a mental coup that turns your forced labor into your laboratory and your jailer into your lead investor, one who doesn't even suspect he's financing his own downfall or at the very least the birth of his competitor. Stop looking at your job as a place where you're paying a debt to society or earning food, and start looking at it as enemy territory where you've been dropped as a deep cover spy. From this moment on, you are no longer a loyal employee. You are a double agent whose mission is to drain all the resources from the system that you can reach. And I'm not talking about paper clips or free coffee. I'm talking about knowledge, processes, and connections. Your employer built a machine that generates money, so stop being a cog in that machine and become the engineer studying its blueprints. Watch how they sell, how they hire, how they fire, how they make mistakes. Especially watch how they make mistakes, because other people's mistakes are the cheapest textbook in the world. You have a unique opportunity to learn business by risking someone else's money, and they're even paying you a stipend for it, which you mistakenly call a salary. And here is the twist, the Santa Barbara effect that should blow your mind and make you smile, that sinister smile you've only seen on movie villains. You suddenly realize that all this time you weren't working for them, they were working for you. They provide you with an office, a computer, clients, budgets, and problems upon which you sharpen your teeth, preparing for the real hunt. You use their infrastructure to build your ark, and every day spent in the office is not lost time. A stolen lesson. You're no longer a victim of exploitation. You are a parasite in the good biological sense of the word. One that uses the host body to grow and strengthen before setting out on its own. This changes everything. Insults from the boss, no longer wound you because you look at him not as a superior, but as a laboratory mouse whose behavior you are studying. Boring tasks no longer exhaust you because you see them as a training ground for your discipline. But knowledge is only half of the equation, because even the smartest spy is useless without the resources for an escape. This is where your salary must transform from a drug into donor blood. Stop spending this money to compensate for your suffering. Stop buying cures for stress. Form new clothes or gadgets, because every cent you spend on consumption is a brick you're pulling out of the wall of your future fortress. Your salary is not money for living. It is the venture capital for your startup, which is yourself. You must live on the bare minimum, gritting your teeth and direct all free cash flow into buying assets, creating a safety net, and launching your own business. Imagine you are stealing the money from the system to buy the weapons that will one day set you free. Yeah, do you feel how your posture is changing, how the fear in your eyes is vanishing? You are no longer a supplicant. You are a predator in ambush, patiently biding your time. You come to work and smile, but your smile is no longer fawning. It is predatory, because you know a secret unavailable to your colleagues who are discussing Friday's drinking plans. They are planning the weekend, but you are planning an escape. They spend their salary to forget themselves, but you invest it so you never need their handouts again. You use their resources, their time, and their money to build your lifeboat, and when the storm starts, and believe me, it will, the economy is cyclical and cruel, you will be the only one not drowning, but calmly sailing away from the sinking ship, waving goodbye to a captain who never realized who he was harboring on his breast. But there is a catch, one critical moment where even the smartest spies break. You can get so caught up in the game of being a double agent that you forget the main goal, to leave. You might start enjoying your secret power, your little revenge, and stay in that golden cage forever, turning into a cynical but still dependent slave. Are you ready to learn how to recognize this point of no return? How to know that your ark is already built and it's time to cut the ropes before you become part of the very swamp you so despised? Because the salary drug knows how to mutate, and in the final stage, it offers you not just money, but power and status. And refusing that temptation will be harder than refusing money. Are you ready to see the final trap that snaps shut right before the exit? Now that we've stripped the mask from your corporate brotherhood and seen the cold grin of exploitation underneath, it's time for the final diagnosis, which could be either a death sentence for you or the first step to healing. But I warn you, this medicine will be more bitter than quinine. Do you still think I'm talking about money? Do you think the problem is the figures? What monstrous nearsightedness. We are talking about your biochemistry, about your soul, which you have hooked onto the most dangerous needle in the world, the needle of guaranteed income. A salary is not just a financial tool. It is a powerful neurotropic drug that rewires your brain, atrophying the parts responsible for hunting, risk-taking, and survival in the wild. You are turning from a wolf into a poodle that is fed on a schedule, groomed, and occasionally scratched behind the ear. You become so accustomed to that bowl that the mere thought of obtaining food on your own causes a panic attack. You tell yourself, well, I can leave at any moment. I'm just waiting for the right time. That is a lie. That is the classic lie of a total addict who insists he controls the dose while the needle is already stuck in his vein. You can't leave because you've developed a tolerance. Remember your first salary. You were happy, right? You felt rich, and now they pay you 10 times more, but there's still not enough money, and the anxiety has only grown stronger. Why? Because your dose has increased. The euphoric effect lasts less and less. You need more and more stability just to feel normal. You demand a raise, not because you've started working better, but because your addiction is progressing. You buy things to drown out the withdrawal of meaninglessness. And you need a new salary to pay for those things. It's a vicious cycle of hell that you call career growth, but I call it moving on to harder drugs. You're trading a clerk's light addiction for a top manager's heavy addiction. where the gold chain is shorter and the bowl is deeper, but the essence remains the same. You do not own yourself. And here comes the moment of truth, the Santa Barbara effect that should knock the ground from under your feet. You think the door of your cage is locked by an evil capitalist. You think the system is holding you by force. Turn around, walk to the door, push it, it's open, it has always been open. No one is keeping you in the office except your own animal terror of freedom. You sit in a cage not because you are locked in, but because it's cold outside. There are no guarantees there. You have to kill to eat. And no one will pay for your sick leave. You are a voluntary prisoner who has fallen in love with his shackles because they are warm. You don't fear failure, you fear responsibility. Being an employee is cozy, because if the business collapses, that's the owner's problem. Being free means that if you didn't catch prey, you and your children go hungry. You chose the satiety of a slave over the hunger of a free man, and that is a choice that kills the creator within you. But you still have a chance. You have the opportunity for rehabilitation, but it will hurt. It will be like withdrawal, where your joints ache and the world feels like it's collapsing. You'll have to learn to live on half the dose you're used to so you can invest the rest. You'll have to learn to endure uncertainty. You'll have to look your fears in the eye and not blink. Rehabilitation is the creation of assets. Until you have assets that feed you without your involvement, you are an addict who is just temporarily clean. Only capital can give you the methadone of freedom. You must build a system that makes your salary unnecessary. And on the day when the income from your investments exceeds your living expenses, you will wake up and realize the needle has fallen out. You are no longer dependent on the dealer. You can walk into the office and tell the truth. You can leave. You can stay. It is no longer a question of survival. It is a question of the game. Now look at your life. Look at this cozy, warm, suffocating cocoon you've spun from your excuses. Are you ready to tear it open and step out into the cold wind of reality? Are you ready to admit that stability is a myth for fools, and the only real security is your ability to create value and own it? Or would you prefer to ask the master for seconds, a new position, a new title, to stroke your ego and forget that you are just a high-paid resource? The choice is yours. But remember, every day you spend on the needle makes your escape less likely. One day you will be too old, too tired, and too dependent to even dream of freedom. Don't let that happen. I want to know who you are. I want to see if you still have teeth or if you've already ground them down against the corporate granite. Write just one word in the comments that will be your diagnosis and your treatment plan. Write dose if you admit that comfort and the illusion of safety are more important to you and you are ready to pay for it with your freedom. Or write freedom if you are ready to go through withdrawal, through deprivation, through fear, to build your arc and get off the salary needle forever. I will be reading and I will know which of you is a future master of life and who is just a statistic in an HR report. Decide right now.